The message wasn't addressed to her, but it was clear. A group text about the baby shower, signed off with, "No drama, please." And just like that, Linda Walker, mother of the father, first-time grandmother, wasn't invited. She didn't argue. She sent one small box instead. What was inside would unravel years of silence and rewrite everything they thought they knew about family. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The invitation never came, not formally, not directly, not even with the dignity of exclusion. Just a message, casual, grouped, sanitized with a baby emoji, cloaked in politeness, so rehearsed it nearly passed for kindness. Linda read it 3 times, her thumb hovering over the screen like maybe, just maybe, the words would shift into something else, something warmer. But they didn't. It wasn't the emoji that made her stomach turn. It was the line at the end. "No drama, please." It rang louder than the rest, not because it was about her, but because it wasn't. It erased her before she could even be named. She called Evan that evening, not to plead, just to clarify. Her voice held that edge of strained lightness, the kind people use when they know the answer and ask anyway, because hope is an instinct, not a choice. His hesitation was louder than his words. "Emily doesn't think it's a good idea." He said it so gently, like a man diffusing a bomb he helped build. Linda swallowed the lump forming in her throat and asked again flatly, "I'm not family?" "You are," he said. But it was the kind of "you are" that always comes with a but, and the rest of the sentence hit harder than the omission had. She ended the call with a thank you. Not sarcastic, not cold, just numb. The kind of thank you that signaled a door quietly closing inside her. The house was too quiet after that. Linda sat at the kitchen table, her tea untouched, the warmth seeping slowly into the wood grain. On the counter sat the half-wrapped gift she'd started assembling 2 weeks ago, a handmade quilt, soft pinks and creams, stitched with tiny tulips. She'd embroidered the baby's initials at the corner, careful to get them just right. She stared at it now like it belonged to someone else. Her thoughts weren't cruel, not even bitter, just exhausted. This wasn't about a party. It wasn't even about Emily. It was about the slow erasure that happens when you're no longer needed but still very much alive. The polite distancing, the reshuffling of roles, the way mothers become afterthoughts in the narratives their children now live without them. Linda didn't weep. She didn't rage. But in that silence, something inside her solidified. She would never beg to belong again. The morning sunlight cut sharp through the blinds, but Linda didn't open them. She moved through her house like a woman with nothing left to prove. No makeup, no perfume, not a single glance toward the closet where the dress hung, pressed days ago in the small hope that maybe someone would call and say they'd changed their mind. They didn't. So she didn't go. She didn't message Evan, didn't check social media to watch the pictures pour in, didn't scroll through filtered snapshots of a party she had helped dream about in silence. She sent one thing, a box. It arrived just before noon, hand-delivered, signature required. Inside was the quilt, not store-bought, not from a registry, but hand-stitched over months of quiet evenings, each square chosen with care. Soft flannels in dusky rose and buttercream, tiny tulips, cotton clouds, every inch touched by hands that once braided Evan's hair and now sewed, stitch by stitch, the outline of a love no one asked for but still existed. Across the bottom corner, she had embroidered the baby's full name. Below it, the expected due date. And just under that, 73 hearts, each one no larger than a grain of rice, placed like silent markers. One for every Sunday she'd spent alone since the announcement, waiting, listening, hoping the phone would ring. She included a card, not in cursive, not overly sentimental, just a single sentence in clean, even print. "You may not want me there, but she'll always have me here." No signature, no accusations. She sealed the box like a whisper, like the final line in a conversation no one wanted to have, because it wasn't about getting even. It wasn't revenge. It was permanence. It was something you can't delete from a photo, something that doesn't fade when the flowers wilt or the balloons deflate. It was warmth, memory, bloodline. It was her way of saying, "You don't have to see me, but you will never erase me." And that was the part they didn't expect. Not the gift, but the fact that she made no noise at all, no plea, no protest, just presence, woven into fabric, built to last. The third morning came quiet. No phone calls, no messages, just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant rustle of leaves outside. Linda was wiping down her already clean counters when the knock came. Not hurried, not timid, just deliberate. When she opened the door, she didn't expect to see Emily. But there she was, hair pulled into a loose knot, face pale and eyes swollen from crying. In her arms, the quilt, pressed tightly to her chest like something sacred, not sewn. Her lips parted, but for a long second nothing came out. Then, barely above a whisper, "I didn't know." Linda didn't move. "I thought you hated me," Emily continued, voice cracking. I don't know what I thought. I made up a version of you in my head, and I fought with her instead of ever talking to you." Linda didn't flinch, didn't soften immediately. Years of distance don't collapse in a single confession. But when Emily looked down at the quilt again, really looked at it, Linda saw something different in her. Not pity, not guilt, recognition, not of a mistake, of a wound. And so, without a word, Linda stepped aside, held the door open, just enough. Let the silence carry its own invitation. They sat at the kitchen table like two women who had shared more walls than words. The light shifted as the hours passed, shadows stretching across the room like long-held grudges slowly retreating. Emily talked. She didn't justify, just revealed. Her jealousy, her insecurity, her fear that Evan's closeness with his mother meant there wouldn't be space for her. And Linda? She said little, not out of pride, but because this wasn't a moment for proving who'd been right. It was a moment to witness someone finally seeing you clearly. She listened. To the pauses between Emily's words. To the ache tucked into her apologies. To the years of frost that had grown not from hatred, but from hurt. And in that quiet, something shifted. Not all at once, not cleanly, but enough to breathe. Because sometimes forgiveness doesn't arrive like fireworks. It arrives like an exhale you didn't realize you'd been holding for a decade. And when it comes, it feels less like victory and more like peace. The delivery room was still and humming all at once, machines beeping steadily, nurses moving with the quiet precision of practiced care. But for Linda Walker, it felt like time had slowed to a single sacred frame, her son's hand in hers, Emily's head resting back in exhausted relief, and the soft, impossibly small weight of her granddaughter being placed in her arms. Not handed off as a formality. Given. Trusted. She wasn't there because someone relented. She wasn't there out of obligation or to keep the peace. She was there because she had earned her place in the most unshakable way a person can, by showing up, even when she wasn't wanted. And now, without ever saying a word to demand inclusion, She was woven into something far stronger than permission. Family. Emily looked over from the bed, eyes rimmed in tired joy, and smiled. Not forced, not polite, real. "She'll know you from the beginning," she said softly, "because you've been here all along." Linda's throat tightened, but not with grief this time. It was something warmer, deeper, a quiet arrival at a home she'd never packed for but somehow reached. From that day forward, Linda stopped hoping for invitations. She didn't need them. She was part of the circle now, not hovering outside the warmth of the fire, but seated firmly beside it. She no longer had to wait for updates or reminders, didn't have to prove her place or be on her best behavior. Her place was self-evident, undeniable. When Evan and Emily struggled through sleepless nights, they called her. When the baby had her first fever, it was Linda who walked in with soup and reassurance. When they needed truth more than comfort, guidance more than pleasantries, it was Linda who showed up. Because wisdom doesn't come from demanding space. It comes from creating value so quietly, so consistently, that people begin to realize life is thinner without you. The woman who once sat at her kitchen table, too stunned to cry over a missed baby shower, became the pillar they all leaned on. The one who knew how to sow stillness into chaos. The one who didn't fight her way into the room, but who made the room feel whole. And when life grew hard, as it always does, it wasn't the loudest voice they turned to, it was hers.